Hey everybody, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling, and I've got a special guest. He's been on the show many times before. It's been a little while since he's been on, but this time we're not on so that both of us can talk about a particular band or a particular album or whatever. Um, we're to talk about something else that we have in common. And first of all, let me introduce to everybody Mr. Jeff Whitcher from Jeff Whitcher's Vinyl Destination. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, thanks for having me, Tim.
This is, in my opinion, an overdue chat because this is something I've been thinking about doing for quite a long time. Um, Almost by accident, Jeff's been on plenty of times, and I've been on his show, and he's contributed to my books. And then I come to find out that uh, not only does Jeff also write books, he's written a ton of books. And specifically, he has written a lot of children's books. And I said, I felt like how come I didn't know this? And Jeff was kind of was kind of humble about it and said, well, it didn't really have to do with your channel, but I thought, yeah, but you write books. I mean, that's quite something. And a lot of them are music oriented, oftentimes very funny, and of late, really popular. So Jeff, basically, just give me the background on how you started into this writing thing.
So back in 2012, and it had always been one of my ambitions to write a book. It wasn't necessarily going to be a children's book, but I'd been writing as early as like elementary school, just stories, or I'd write comic books, and I've been a painter and a illustrator and things like that. And so I finally in 2012 wrote my first book. And it was a book of children's poems, and it was just something I wrote because I wanted a keepsake for my kids. I thought it was just going to be one book. And it was very much in the Shel Silverstein style. I mean, just to give you an example, I don't have particularly have that first book in front of me, but this is an example. And I probably got to turn stop blurring my background here. There we go. This is what the books of poetry look like. And they're a lot like Shel Silverstein. They're funny. They have funny illustrations. And I wrote about 40 children's books. Some of them are actually like picture books. Uh, but after writing about 40 of those, and it was right before the pandemic, I just thought, you know what? I've got this darker side to my sense of humor, and I'm going to write a parody of a children's book. And one of my favorite cartoon franchises growing up was the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and all of that. And so whoops, sorry, wrong one. Um,
Thank you.
the, the book that I came up with it's called Snoop Come Home. And basically it is what would happen if the Peanuts replaced Snoopy the dog with Snoop Dogg the rapper. And of course, Snoop Dogg indulges in a lot of cannabis smoking and a lot of inappropriate activities. And I thought it would just be kind of a fun mashup to imagine what a Peanuts cartoon would look like if you had Snoop Dogg the rapper instead of Snoopy the actual dog. And it's sold reasonably well when I came out with it, but I just really intended it to be for friends and families, people on Facebook who might find it funny. I didn't really think about expanding it. I mean, all these books are on Amazon, but that one I thought, well, this one's not going to sell because it's not in my typical wheelhouse of books. And then I got into YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel that I've been working on the last 5 years. And I just kind of got away from writing books or promoting books. And then 2 weeks ago, come to find out that Lindsay Wright, who is on Instagram, she's on TikTok, turns out she's a pretty influential promoter of indie authors, particularly ones who write adult books that are children book parodies. She read Snoop Come Home on her channel, which is hashtag not a children's book. Um, and right now it has 7.1 million views, which completely blew me away. And it's a book I wrote 5 years ago. So it's funny looking through all the comments. People are obviously with the current political situation over here, and Snoop Dogg performed before the presidential inauguration. There were people who, were suddenly like, "Oh, I'm not a big fan of Snoop," but there were a lot of people who really enjoyed the book and they saw the humor in it. And it's really, I mean, the book sales have really taken off, and so I've kind of been on a new round of promoting the book. Um, I do actually have a new book that is going to be released in 2 weeks. I've got it finished. Um, and if I can share the cover.
Okay, yeah, hang on. Let's take a look here. I clicked allow, so we'll see what happens. All right.
So this is
Of
the natural sequel to the book. And I mean,
course.
look, I am no fan of this president, and so this book adds like a new dimension because when I wrote this book, it was before a lot of the controversy surrounding Snoop Dogg and whatnot. So that I felt I had to come up with a new twist on it. And so basically, the story is, the president is going to the pumpkin patch and holding a political rally, and Linus sees him and mistakes him for the great pumpkin that he's been waiting for all these years. And he's going
Yeah,
to rise from the pumpkin patch and bring
yeah.
peace, prosperity, and all these great things. And you've got Lucy and Peppermint Patty who are protesting outside the rally, and it takes on a lot of a bit of a political satire, political parody, in addition to, having Snoop Dogg there.
Well, so yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that you got to have a sense of humor about things. Yeah, I think you should have a sense of humor anyway. It's the only thing that'll keep, it's the only thing we can do is laugh at things, right? No matter where we are on the, in anything.
Right.
And I know that you and I talked privately. Someone completely misunderstood Snoop Come Home and said this is inappropriate for children. And yeah, it says right on the cover,
It
this
was
is a
meant to be.
parody, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
and there are people who get it and people who recognize like it's just a parody. And that's
to
how
me,
I'm
it, to me,
able
it's
to.
quite obviously a parody.
Sure. I mean, I put it right on the cover, a
Yeah, I mean,
parody, because the big question people have is how do you get away with the copyright for
I
that?
was
And if
going to
it's a
ask you that.
parody, then you've got a lot more leeway than if I were just trying to come up with the new adventures of Charlie Brown and make it in the same style as the
Right.
Venus comics. But I mean, my tagline for my website that I have is books for your inner child or your actual child.
Yeah.
So I mean, I write both styles of books.
And you've written books that are in, the style of Dr. Seuss. I've noticed that as well. And I have to say, I've got one of your books here to show off. I've given this as a gift, and it is a parody, a very loving parody of what was one of my favorite books when I was a kid. Um, Originally, it was called "There's a Monster," or "The Monster at the End of This Book," but Jeff took it a step further. Now it's about the hipster at the end of this book, and he's holding up a record there, folks. So you know what? It's musical, and the whole idea of monster at the end of this book is Grover is afraid to see the monster at the end of this book, and he keeps telling you not to turn the page. And I still remember the line specific, do you know that you are very strong? Uh, and I just now noticed, this is classic. I just now noticed that he's got a can of Pabst Blue Ribbon. So I mean, this is really, I mean, it reminds me, Jeff, of I mean, ever since I was a kid, but as an adult, I think maybe even more. I'm a huge fan of the Warner Brothers cartoons, Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies, and a lot of those cartoons are satire, whether it was satire of Disney or classic, putting a new twist on classic fairy tales. But it can't. I remember seeing an interview with Chuck Jones saying you can't do it with a stance. You have to be a fan of the source material, and don't do it in a mean way. Uh, but just have fun with it. But a lot of the situations that remind me of those cartoons remind me of, I'm sure, what comes to you in your books, taking a group of characters, an established story, an established universe, and just changing one little thing. You know, instead of Snoopy, make it Snoop. What would that do? How would that shake up everything to do with it? And yeah, it's been really cool seeing the fact that your books have taken off, and it's awesome. And yeah, there are books like is Amazon your preferred? Is that the easiest way for people to get a hold of your books?
It's the easiest way if you just want the book like very quickly, because I don't know how quickly Amazon ships over in Canada, but I know,
It's pretty
if you've got
quick.
Amazon Prime, you can get it pretty
It's less
quickly.
it's
So
less than a week, especially if you got Prime.
yeah, yeah. But if you want an autographed copy, which I will personalize, you can go to jeffwhitcherbooks.com. Whicher is spelled Whitcher, and you can get an autographed copy. But if you don't care about my autograph because you don't know me from Adam, I understand that. I get it. Then it is available on Amazon, along with the book that you just showed, The Hipster, at the end of this book. And some of my other, this is another example of a poetry book, as is this one. I dreamt I was a waffle. So it's a wide variety. Everything's better with ketchup. So there's like 50 books available.
Got this
Yes,
one here
yes, that
too.
one.
Yeah. I mean, this could be like a Robert Munch book or like anybody that's had young kids. Um, yeah, very well done. So, you know, congrats on that. Have you ever, I think we talked about this, but have you ever had an idea in mind that you just couldn't do because you know, because I think there was one particular and it was musical.
Right. Yeah, because what I intended the sequel to be, to this book, I was going to do another Peanuts themed book. And instead of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which was a popular animated film when we were growing up in the 70s, I changed it to You're a Kiss Fan, Charlie Brown. And I had the artwork all made up. I had the entire book written. It was Charlie Brown. He's a Kiss fan. And you've got Lucy indignant because she doesn't understand why the lyrics have to be overtly sexual. And you've got Schroeder weighing in on Kiss music. And, you know, they, as an example, Charlie Brown dresses up as Gene Simmons on Halloween. Uh, so it kind of was all about Kiss and all about, like, imagine the Peanuts immersed in that whole, Kiss culture back in the late 70s where, all the kids were into Kiss and Kiss Halloween costumes and things like that. So I put the book together. It really made me sad because, I love Kiss and I love Peanuts, and that hybrid, I like Peanuts. I don't listen to Snoop Dogg's music. It was just sort of the whole idea was
Well, the
funny to
name,
me.
it just it kind of the idea kind of presented itself, right? I mean, just take
Right,
the
right.
Y
It
off and oh,
seemed like a natural marriage.
yeah.
And with Kiss, I'm like, great, now I can finally show a band that I love and have it incorporated into the Peanuts. But I could not, it wasn't so much the Charlie Brown copyright, it was the Kiss. I just I couldn't get away with it, even as a parody. It was just not going to work out, which was unfortunate. So that's one. I think I've shown Tim some pictures of it, and he got a giggle out of it.
Oh
But
yeah. I mean, it's I'm not surprised, but it is a shame because I think that ultimately what it would have done is got people thinking about Kiss maybe in a different way, and maybe that, yeah, maybe I'll listen to them. I haven't listened to them in a while. I don't know.
mhm.
It's pretty typical of the Kiss organization, but it's at the same time it's kind of a shame. Um, but it's really cool that you've been able to work in some of these fantastic ideas. I know you've got one about James Brown. I can't remember the title.
Yeah, there's a Dr. Seuss book, and it's called James Brown Can Moo. I'm sorry, it's called Mr. Brown Can Moo, Can You? And so I twisted it around, and it's James Brown Can Moo, Can You? And it's all the things. Instead of Mr. Brown, it's him going through and all these, his mannerisms, his cadence, like whatever the scatting that he does, kind of all that, like
Vocalization. Yeah.
simplified
Yep.
noises that he makes when he's on stage and on his records. So it's really it's James Brown, and I love James Brown. This is not like a book making fun of James Brown, although to an extent, the more eccentric version of James Brown, it does a little bit touch on that. But yeah, that one is available too. And so that one is, if you like Dr. Seuss books, it rhymes. It's definitely in that same style. It's just James Brown instead of Mr. Brown.
Awesome. So yes, folks, I will have links below for you to order them both if you want to get them autographed directly from Jeff, or if you want to just get them from Amazon, get them real quick. I'll also have a link to Jeff's channel, and the channel's going along, still posting lots of videos. That's been you've always got great content on there. Have you got anything like different planned, or just you're just kind of rolling along the way you have been?
I just wrapped up a deep dive series on the Kinks. I went from their first album up through the Lola versus Power Man and the Money Go Round. I just did that one. I'm getting away from that. I did about 8 episodes of that, and so now I haven't quite settled on. I'm thinking of one of my Van Halen 1984 deep dive got blocked, and it actually got me a copyright strike because of a 5 second clip that I used. I think it was like the US Festival or something from back in 1984. And the person who owned that video, and I only used, it was literally 5 seconds, and took the video down. I can't even trim out that segment of the video for whatever reason. And so I'm thinking of trying to rebuild that from scratch because I was really proud of that. And now I've got a hole in my Van Halen deep dive series between Diver Down and 5150 that has always bugged me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would me too. It's incomplete, right? That's that one that's
Hmm.
missing. Yeah. Isn't that funny? Because I mean, the US Festival has never officially been released, even their
Right.
their performance from it.
And I didn't think anybody owned that. I thought if anybody would own it, it would be, the Van Halen brothers or the Eddie Van Halen estate or whoever
Well, yeah,
controlled it.
because I don't even think Warner Brothers would own that because they never filmed it.
Right. It was never officially or commercially released.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that happens, and yeah, that always sucks when that happens because all you're trying to do is promote, right? Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and you're doing due diligence. It's 5 seconds of a crappy live clip.
Right. Because
Yeah.
I know the rules. I know you can't use more than 10 seconds, and I don't monetize my videos. And so I will use whatever, I'm not going to get blocked for. But I understand there are certain videos you can't use more than a 10-second clip of. So I try to be very mindful of that. And that's what
Yeah,
I
you're trying to look
did.
at what do they call it? Fair use.
Right, right, exactly. So I did not exceed that, but whoever owned that particular video, and it was up for about 2 weeks. And that's what bugs me too, is I'll have a video up for months, and then all of a sudden it's got that red circle with a slash through it. Nobody can see it anymore. And a lot of people have brought old videos to my attention that have been blocked. But
Usually, if I, say if I film some clips from a concert, as soon as I put it up, I'll get a copyright notice or copyright sharing or anything like that. Knock on wood, I haven't gotten a strike yet, but that it kind of sucks that that happened to you. But hey,
yeah, well, that's
I'll
with my
we'll redo
Black
the
Sabbath.
1984 video and you'll do a better version of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I did a Black Sabbath series, and I got as far as Heaven and Hell, and I tried to do the mob rules, and I could not get no music, no video. Everything I tried to shorten the clips. I tried, using the video spare, and it was like, no, I had to stop my series at mob rules because of the whole copyright thing, which was a bummer, but I mean, nothing we can really do about it.
Yeah, you have to work within the system. So Jeff, thanks for coming on to talk about your burgeoning book career, and I look forward to some seeing more of that come out. So folks, you've got if you,
Absolutely.
oh.
Yeah. Speaking of my own library of Tim Derling books.
I appreciate that. I can't compete with the kids' books because so yes, folks, if you've got young kids in your family, if you've got your own young kids, nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever, they make great gifts. And if you've got you know older relatives that like a good like a good pun, and for example, if you've got somebody that collects Peanuts Charlie Brown memorabilia. That's Snoop Come Home's a nice companion piece, as is its sequel. So,
Mhm.
it's just it's that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be fun all around. So, Jeff, good luck. Continuing with the books and the channel, and we'll have to have you on for something. But for now, folks, go check out Jeff Whitcher's Final Destination on YouTube and go check out his books.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks everybody for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. We'll see you later.